I'm Julie Campagnoli with Jam Collective, and I'm here today with Vince Mazuka from Osprey. He's the Director of Marketing. And the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about Osprey's newest packs for Spring 22. Hey, Vince.
Hey, Julie. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So as a reminder, and you guys are all pros by now because you've been through several of these already this morning, but if you have any questions, please do put the questions in the question box. We'll try and answer them during this session. So with that, Vince, let's start looking at Spring 22. I think we have a couple of slides we're going to pull up with an overview of the season. Everything you see here is new for Spring 22.
Yeah, that's right. We just wanted to show a quick overview. We're not going to necessarily walk into detail of every single one of these that you're seeing here, but just to give you a picture of Spring 22 as a whole. Spring 22 is very focused on technical outdoor. Most of our spring seasons tend to lean that direction, and we've got a lot to talk about in that arena. But we just kind of wanted to show you the full scope. And one of the big things here, and I think you'll see this in Spring 22, you'll see this especially also in Fall 22 and moving on. I think if there's one note to take away is that the one thing we haven't done over the past couple of years is let off at all on the gas pedal for product development and design. We've invested pretty heavily with our product management team and design team over the last couple of years, and taken advantage of this time to really just make sure that our pipeline is completely stocked with new innovation and fresh kind of takes on categories that we exist in.
All right, the next slide.
Yeah, and so what we're going to focus on today are these styles you're seeing here. So we'll start with Unlimited, which you may or may not have seen kind of snippets of that project, and we'll get into the details of that one, and then hit on our best-selling and most used franchises in the backpacking space with Atmosora and Exos in Asia, and then some new additions like Sportlight and complete redesigns with our Run series on Durodyna.
Awesome. So before we launch into the product itself, I did want to touch on sustainability. Now, sustainability has been at the core of Osprey since the brand's inception, but recently you announced your aim to become the most progressive, transparent, and sustainable outdoor hard goods brand worldwide. So chat with us a little bit about how you are tracking against that goal.
Yeah, so anyone who was at, I think, probably the Spring 19 Summer OR show probably heard us come and kind of lay this out pretty loud and proud. We have set some pretty strong goals for ourselves as a company. And when we say, I guess I just want to clarify, when we say we want to be the most progressive and transparent brand, that's in probably more of a friendly competition than anything else. Like the better we're all doing in this arena, the better off we all are. So we say that because that pushes us to be as the best we can in this world. So when we did lay that kind of goal out or plant that flag, we laid out kind of our three pillars as the foundation of the things that we're tracking, and that's materials, chemistry, and corporate social responsibility. On the material side, we want to make sure we're using the highest quality while the least impactful materials possible. The two main areas for that are recycled and Blue Sign approved materials. And so when we get into the next slide, we'll kind of show some of the progress report that we're making, and we'll continue to make those. It's one thing to make a claim back in 2019, but to not follow up seasonally with some sort of progress report and updates on where we are in the process, then we wouldn't be doing our job. So, and then chemistry, the second one, that's just actually taking it a step further back from materials and what goes into those materials and what goes on those materials. So we partnered pretty heavily with Blue Sign on adopting their restricted substance list. And actually this year we've signed on as a fully Blue Sign certified partner, or a Blue Sign partner or system partner. And so, we're working closer and closer with them to make sure that our materials are meeting their standards. And then on the CSR side, it's really looking at where do our products go at the end of their trail life, if you will, or their usable life. So we've implemented a few programs that I'll talk a little bit about to make sure that as our products kind of end their their trail life and they've gone through our AMG process and we've repaired it and sent it back out, and then there's a point where it's just no longer really functional. How do we make sure that those don't end up in landfill? And then on top of that, making sure that we've got world-class factory code of conducts in place, as well as kind of our philanthropic efforts are very strategic. So that's just kind of the groundwork or the foundation that we launched all of this off of. And now if we move on to the progress report, this is just a little bit of a report for spring 22. So by spring 22, I won't necessarily go into detail on all of these, but the things that are making the biggest impact are, I mentioned recycled. By using recycled materials, you're reducing your carbon footprint of the material, of the kind of development process by up to 40%. By spring 22, over 60% of main body materials, and that's across our entire line, not just the spring 22 line, but across our entire line, over 60% of our main body materials are now recycled. We're working with some pretty progressive factories who are coming up with very unique ways, like an example here, this Nexus buckle, where they're moving away from carbon-based like production methods and moving to bio-based methane alternatives for producing buckles. Super, like, that we could get into the weeds on that. And anyone who has interest in more details on this, we'd be happy to set up a separate call. But 30% of our buckles for spring 22 are utilizing these new processes. 100% of our main body fabrics, the DWR finishes, are C0 or PFC, PFAS free. That was a goal that we actually set to have accomplished by 2023. We've been able to hit that across our entire line for spring 22. So anything produced, whether it's new for spring 22 or in line from 2022 on, is 100% PFC free. And then 100% of the new products are the materials are Blue Sign approved. So as I mentioned, we're working closely with them, and you'll continue to see that in future seasons. And then the CSR side, I mentioned we have some programs in place to reduce the impact of kind of products at the end of their life. One of the programs highlighted here is the Renewal Workshop. They're based in Cascade Locks, Oregon, a great organization or company. And so essentially we've diverted over 21,000 pounds of these packs or waste to them, and they take those, and if they can functionally repair them and resell them on the site, we have an Osprey Renewed section of their site where you can buy repurposed Osprey packs. But for the products they can't, they then kind of strip those down to their raw materials and then repurpose those or sell those off for other uses. So that's just a short progress update. We've got a lot more that we could update you on, but those are just some of the highlights that we're pretty excited about.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's now jump into products. Let's start with Unlimited. This has been a top secret project that the Osprey innovation team has been working on for a number of years. Tell us about Unlimited, Vince.
Yeah, I think it starts with the innovation team that you mentioned, and our founder Mike Fotenauer is the design genius that continuously comes up with these kind of new ways of thinking about a pack, or continuously reinventing what a backpacking pack is and what suspension more so is. And when we talk, and you'll hear me say the word fit over and over again throughout this presentation, because fit is critical to us. We have this little internal saying that nothing weighs heavier than pain, and we can make the lightest thing on the market, but if it's uncomfortable 30 miles down into a trail, it's just not going to perform for you. So everything is about fit, and so we're continuously looking for new ways to transfer a load to the body, and that's essentially what a backpack does. With Unlimited, what we did was we took Mike out of this kind of hamster wheel of the 18-month design cycle where you put in a brief and it has price constraints and target consumers and has to use these materials. We took all of those handcuffs on him, put him in a separate design group, or the innovation team surrounded him with developers, and his focus is purely on futuristic products. What types of manufacturing techniques are we not looking at? What types of, what is the bleeding edge of technology that we can utilize in this space? And so Unlimited is born from that. So he's been working on this for a number of years. Some of the things that you'll see within this that are extremely unique or first time to the pack world are things like 3D printed lumbar pads. We work with carbon out of the Bay Area to develop 3D printed custom lumbar pads. The unique thing about 3D printing is you can actually customize, like finely tune the density and the flex throughout the entire kind of lumbar in specific areas. And so, we learned a lot through that process. And I'll actually show a product here in just a second, but we've also implemented, a handful of other kind of firsts for the pack market, like this innovative auto lift system. So if you're used to a backpacking pack where you're kind of constantly adjusting the load lifters at the top of the pack, this is actually, you don't have to do that anymore. This automatically, based on how you adjust it or tighten the shoulder straps, it automatically adjusts or fine tunes those load lifters for you. And then just implementing new fabrics that we haven't necessarily either had access to due to price point constraints or things like that, just for us to work with. And I think, one important note on Unlimited is, this is not going to be it's obviously not going to be a cheap pack. We're utilizing cutting edge technology. It's a $700 pack at retail. This is launching in February. We're super excited about the launch of this, but more so not because we think we're going to sell a ton of $700 packs, but because of the learning we get along the way, and then the technology we can trickle into products that we'll also look at here, like Atmos. We're already seeing some of the benefits of projects like this, in the learning that we get along the way. So super exciting product.
Great. Why don't we show the pack in hand now?
Yeah, so with that, we've got this is going to be available in both an anti-gravity and airspeed suspension. One thing that that's kind of a seasonal highlight for spring 22 is that this kind of wraps up, also part of something that Mike and the innovation team have been working on, is basically a multi-year overhaul of all our 3 core suspension systems. So that's airspeed, airscape, and anti-gravity. And basically refining those again to optimize fit and to optimize adjustability. So they're easier to shop, easier to sell, easier to fit. And then they're just in general more adjustable. So what I have here is the Unlimited anti-gravity. So a few unique things here. First and foremost, as I mentioned, is that 3D printed lumbar pad. And so let me just get this buckle out of the way.
And you're the only one using this technology, this 3D printing technology in the backpacking space, right?
In the backpacking space, yeah, exactly. So you can see that in there. So the 3D printing is something that we're seeing in a few other brands. Adidas has put it in an outsole. Specialized has put it in a saddle. And then there are also some football and ice hockey helmets. CCM and Riddell are both putting them in high impact areas. And that's why we chose that lumbar pad, is they've been proven both with outsoles and helmets to work well in shock absorption, as well as just high impact areas. So they're super durable. They're also, a pretty, very little to no waste process as they go through and actually do the 3D printing itself. So the 3D printed lumbar pad, this utilizes the anti-gravity suspension, which is a continuous mesh that you'll also see on the anti-gravity. And then the auto lift system across the top here. So where you would typically have a load lifter that you adjust and you kind of constantly adjust as you're on the trail, this one basically, as you tighten and adjust your shoulder strap on your body, it'll actually adjust on this on the lift itself automatically. So it kind of optimizes the fit for you. A couple other unique things here is we're working with basically this clamshell compression system. So if you've seen the kickstand on some of our lifestyle packs where it has a wire frame that drops down to the bottom, allowing the pack to stand up, we basically reverse that so that we have a wire frame kind of running around the top. And as you tighten the compression straps, it pulls that entire kind of clamshell to compress the load more efficiently into your body. So again, coming in an anti-gravity as well as an airscape in a 64-liter and 64-liter options. These will be available in fall. So looking at, or sorry, not fall, in February. February 15th is the launch date for these.
Excellent. All right. Anything more on Unlimited? We've gotten some positive feedback from the audience on that lumbar.
Yeah, no, the lumbar is awesome, and I think the everything we've received from both kind of any sort of testing in the field is that it carries incredibly comfortably, and I think it's something that, again, we're learning a lot through this process. And Unlimited, by nature of kind of the scope of the project and the name and kind of what we're utilizing there, it won't end at these backpacking packs. So you'll see future Unlimited products that all are just kind of signify, again, like the cutting edge of technology in ways that we can kind of bring that into various categories that we work in.
Awesome. All right. So now let's move into Atmos Aura AG and Exos Asia. Now, the Atmos Aura AG is actually the #1 selling backpacking pack on the market. And I'm not just talking Osprey, I'm talking the market as a whole. And then Exos Asia is the most popular pack with through hikers on the AT. So you've taken these two very popular, very successful packs and made them better for spring 22. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so Atmos Aura, as you mentioned, it's the best-selling kind of pack on the market for us. When we originally introduced anti-gravity suspension in the Atmos and Aura series, it kind of redefined what a pack could do, both just like on the body as well as just in the market in terms of the interest and volume that a pack could do in the backpacking space. In the Atmos Aura, it hasn't slowed down. And so one of those, fears when you touch it, obviously, is that you don't want to, mess with something that's good. But as I mentioned, and I'm going to grab one here. As I mentioned, everything's focused on fit. So when we approach redesigning anything and or fine-tuning or updating suspension, it all has to do with fit. It's fit, and then it's also like how much you can fine tune the fit, as well as like how the fitting process works for our retail partners. So what they have to go through and how can we simplify that process? So can we just little things like, can we remove the Velcro that they used to have to stick their hands in and completely like cut their fingers up to kind of move the back panel? So we've done a lot of, those are like the little internal things that people probably don't need to know, but those are the areas we're looking at. But in terms of the Atmos and Aura, we've added adjustability or increased the adjustability to this product. So a few things. Again, this is the anti-gravity suspension. So it is that suspended mesh all the way through the hip belts up through the shoulder harness. One of the you'll notice there's kind of silicone print here. This is actually one of those learnings that we got from the Unlimited project, that the way that the 3D printed lumbar material kind of grips your body, there's little to no slippage of the pack, even a loaded pack on the trail. And so we kind of took that same concept and said, okay, how do we apply that to something like a mesh? And this silicone grip is doing exactly that. So that's one of the learnings. But when it comes to improving the fit, with a pack, there's 3 areas of adjustment that we look at for fit. So there's the torso length, and then there's your hip belt, and then there's your shoulder harness. So what we've done is taken some of the things we've also learned from the recent update to the Ether Aerial and added the fit on the fly in the harness. So the harness itself, it's not only adjustable in the torso, so you can adjust the torso length here up and down 4 inches. You can adjust the harness itself. And so the shoulder straps, you can undo the Velcro, and then these can adjust out up to almost 4 inches, which give you, if you're a broader shouldered person, you can adjust the fit so that it wraps around into your armpit appropriately. So much more adjustment there. So by adjusting the torso up and these out, you're fitting a much broader audience. And then we've also added we've kept or maintained the fit on the fly in the harness. So the harness itself, the hip wings can expand out as well. What that allows us to do by adding 3 points of adjustment is we can simplify the buying process for somebody by going from 3 sizes down to 2 sizes. And with the fit range we're hitting now, we're actually still hitting a wider range than we were previously with 3 styles, with 3 sizes, with only 2, which again, like I said, it makes it easier for somebody to shop. and to buy, and also for a retailer to fit. In addition to that, so again, all of these, we've shifted all of the materials to 100% recycled main body materials, Blue Sign approved materials, as well as PFC-free DWR treatments. And then just some kind of slight adjustments. So there's increased access. There's a large J-zip on the side, gives you access to the main body panel, or to the main body of the pack. But other than that, you know, we didn't try to mess with too many of the other features because they're resonating well with our users.
Great.
But on that, and then on the Exos in Asia, or any other questions on Atmosora?
No, we just got lots of positive feedback about such exciting product for multi-day hikes. So lots of enthusiasm.
Yeah, awesome. For Exos Asia, the same kind of approach is looking at with the air speed back panel, which is, you know, if you look at it through a computer screen, it probably looks similar to an anti-gravity suspension. The main difference is this is a high ventilation, but it doesn't necessarily have the continuous raised mesh or suspended mesh all the way through the hip belts. That's kind of the main differentiator. The Exos in Asia, if the Atmos Nora is the best selling pack on the market, the Exos in Asia, I'm getting my names mixed up, it's the most used on the Appalachian Trail, according to Trek.com, multiple years in a row. And so again, if this is the most used by a very core audience, so you don't want to ruin a good thing that you have, especially with that kind of trail cred. But this is your ultralight backpacking pack. So that's exactly what this is for somebody. If the Atmosora is really more like the modern backpacker going out for weekends or week-long excursions, but they're not necessarily like shaving off their toothbrush and making spreadsheets and counting ounces. Whereas the Exos in Asia is kind of starting to get into that kind of audience who has a very modern ultralight kit. And so available in 38, 48, and 58 liter options. The main thing we did here is it doesn't have the same 3 points of adjustment, but this used to be a fixed harness. So we had 4 sizes and you had to find the right size that fit you. We added adjustability. So there's 5 points of adjustment in the torso. So the torso length is adjustable, allowing for this to go down to 3 sizes and just be, again, a little bit easier to shop. Also adjustable in a sense that thru hikers tend to lose weight over the course of a couple months on the trail. So the added adjustments helpful there. And then, we brought hip belt pockets back to this one, which was the one thing we heard the most was, we need hip belt pockets for access to gear on the go. And the previous design just didn't allow that for the way that the hip belt. So we've redesigned those to bring those back.
Great. All right, so let's move into Sportlight. We've been looking at highly technical multi-day packs, and Sportlight is a brand new series, and this really targeted that outdoor adventure or day hiker that's looking for a more simple, streamlined feature set.
Yeah, so Sportlight, if you look at a handful of our products, there are quite a few features to most of our products, and in some cases, and I think something that a lot of us here in the office occasionally want is just a simpler day pack, something that's like pretty minimalist, but still provides kind of what Osprey promises, which is that fit and kind of functionality. And so Sportlight is a new hiking series. It's going to be available in a 15 liter, 20, 25, and 30 liter. So, from a very simple, this is the 25 here for reference. From a very simple, like 15 liter, don't need to carry a whole lot, all the way up to 30 liters, which is still a pretty good size, big size pack. And it has like volume specific fit focus. So in the smaller volumes, so in the 15 and 20 liter, it comes in one size. You're not necessarily transferring a big load to the body. You don't have to worry so much about grabbing onto the hip bones. Whereas in the 25 and 30 liter, they come in 2 sizes. These are gender neutral, but they come in 2 sizes so that, when you start to get slightly larger in volume, a little bit more load is being transferred to the body. We want to try to ensure that fit is appropriate. So very simple feature set. So you have main organization, kind of top lid pocket, and then larger kind of main compartment with a reservoir sleeve if you want to add a hydration reservoir, front shove it pocket, and then on the larger volumes, like you're seeing here in the 25 liter, there are hip belt pockets and actual, hip belts themselves. We're using our air skate back panel, our suspension system, which is a close to body fit. So rather than that raised suspension, it's a very close to body but breathable fit, kind of more for a dynamic active user. And again, just available in four volumes and a really simple feature set at a great price point, and fully recycled, PFC free, checking all the boxes on our sustainability front as well.
All right. Now let's move into Durodyna. We have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Durodyna is your Run Hydration Vest Pack series. And I know this season you've introduced a new style with the LT, but you've also made some pretty significant updates and changes to all the styles. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so Durodyna it's been a very successful run franchise for us. And this time, we actually went into it from the ground up saying, it's still going to be a run vest, but let's completely redesign it. With, again, a serious focus on fit. So run vests are very unique in that, we're used to grabbing onto hip belts and kind of the lumbar. Whereas with a run vest, your anchor is the rib cage. And so we're grabbing onto the rib cage. And because we do this in a men's and women's specific fit's very unique, and vests are very intimate. It's a very kind of a challenging fit problem. So our designer for this project focused first and foremost on women's specific fit and adjusting some of the things that we can, like, for example, how the front pockets, adjusting these so that they actually sit a little bit higher, so they're slightly above the breast, allowing for things like, dual water bottle carries to be a much more comfortable feel and fit and just work better in a very active, dynamic running motion. So fit was one of the key focuses. And then once we got that dialed and kind of scaled that out for men's and women's, the next was ventilation. So ensuring that the ventilation was paramount. So every single kind of every panel within these are fully ventilated mesh panels, no matter what panel it is or what pocket it is or what fabric. So, and then from there, just kind of expanding the use cases. So we added a new volume in the LT. So this is a very simple vest pack for fast runs, either somebody racing a very fast 50K or just going out for a lunch run or something and they need some extra water. This comes with two 350 milliliter flasks, chest pockets, and then a very simple pocket in the back. And then we do it in an LT, a 1.5 liter, 6 liter, all the way up to a 15 liter, which is like for, adventure racing or doing like self-supported Nolan's 14 type outings. One thing that is also new is that we're also adding, it's a new reservoir itself. So the reservoir comes with the hydrofusion insulated tube. Part of that's just making sure that any water that stays in the tube stays at a cooler temperature, which is just as much about the mental space as it is about actual hydration. And, if you take a sip and it's nice and cool and refreshing, it just kind of gives you that little mental edge. And then we've simplified the reservoir as well, just to make it lighter and a little bit simpler and more streamlined for the run audience. So again, fully recycled, very unique to the run industry or the run market. But that's the kind of the updates to the Durodyna. I guess last is we've also completely redesigned the waist belt itself. So it's a very high stretch, very high performance kind of race belt.
Yeah, that looks completely different than the current model. Right. And so often you keep the same name from season to season because there's so much great brand equity in that name, but that's not to say that these are not new products. They absolutely are for the season.
Right.
All right, so we have a couple of minutes left, just 1 minute before I turn it over to my colleague, July. In the Durodyna series, do you sell your flasks as accessories or do they come with the packs? How does that work?
Yeah. flasks are also available as accessories. So, if you wanted to use, a lot of people will buy the flasks and then use those as just the two fronts. For example, the 6 comes with a reservoir, but sometimes people want to run either in addition the 2 flasks up front, or just 1 flask with like a sport mix or a drink mix of some sort, and then kind of straight water in your reservoir.
Excellent. And where is